Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Tonight, the program will undertake a review of activities in the year 2024 with prospects for ministries, departments and agencies in the current year 2025. Now, key areas will be in agriculture and food security, digital economy, security and economy, with a panel of discussants, while various reports revealing progress and challenges in these sectors taking the lead. But just before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Chimdemma Ndubisi.
The 3 Million Technical Talent Program, launched in 2023 by the Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, in line with the President Administration's mandate to develop tech talent and create job opportunities for Nigerians, witnessed impressive growth in 2024. About 150,000 beneficiaries are emerging as innovators and contributors to Nigeria's tech ecosystem. Among them are Mercy and Rashidat, whose success stories exemplify the initiative's transformative impact.
We created a solution called Ride Right. It is a solution that tackles one chance incidents in Abuja. My finances before FMCT and now after has significantly upscaled.
I earned a certificate in data science and were taught various tools such as Python, majorly Python. Other tools that we were taught or shown is the SPSS, Stata. It's a means for me to also pass this knowledge also to more people.
Connectivity also received significant boost. The ministry connected 50 local government secretariats to the internet in 2024 under the 774 Local Government Connectivity Project. The plan is to extend connectivity to the remaining secretariats by 2025. This will enhance skills training in the grassroots. However, broadband penetration remains below 50%, with only 30,000 kilometers of fiber optics laid, far short of the 120,000 kilometers required for nationwide connectivity. To resolve this, the Federal Executive Council last year approved a $2 billion plan to expand the network by 90,000 kilometers. This will improve internet quality, enhance digital access, especially in remote areas, and empower micro, small, and medium enterprises in the coming years. Additionally, Google's $2.8 billion pledge to train Nigerians in artificial intelligence and robotics, combined with the ministry's funding of 45 AI research projects, are set to solidify Nigeria's position as a leader in emerging technologies across Africa. As 2025 begins, ICT professionals are raising expectations.
I actually expect to see accountability in terms of following up with this project to ensure that the funds that have been released are actually for the work that was made. And then the other thing is job creation.
They are also calling for stronger sector regulation to ensure affordable tariffs, improved internet services, and a business-friendly environment for telecom service providers and digital startups. In Abuja, Chimdemma Ndubisi.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. I'd like to introduce our guest to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Bosun Tijani, is the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. Minister, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I believe this is your first appearance on NTA Tuesday Live.
I think I've been there. Well, yes, on Tuesday.
Live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, perhaps other programs, but specifically Tuesday Live. So it's nice to welcome you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Let me also welcome to this program General Lucky Rabo, former Chief of Defense Staff and the former Commander of Multinational Joint Task Force. General, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for having me. Thank you.
Also here in the studio is Niyi Akishiju. He's a development economist and a public affairs analyst. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
Right. We do expect to be joined by the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security. Yes, there he is. Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi. He joins us via Zoom from London. Minister, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
All right.
It's a pleasure to be here, and good evening to all of you. Good evening to my brother Basu. Right. Good evening to the soldier, the general, and your other guests.
All right.
Thank you very much, Siristova, for having me. It's a pleasure. Happy New Year to all of you.
Well, Happy New Year to you too. All right. Well, as is the nature of this program, at some point in time, you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. But when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedures. But for now, let's begin from the point of reviewing some key aspects of Nigeria in the past year, that's year 2024. And we'd like to start off this way because one of the biggest challenges over the years had been that of securing the nation. And as they say, without security, well, hardly anything will work. So let's look at how Nigeria fared last year and the prospects of securing this nation in 2025 and beyond. And to help us with that, let's turn to General Lucky Irabo. Government has done a lot in the past year to secure the nation, and the war against terrorism and other crimes had been reinvigorated. And there are lots of Nigerians who say the reports they're getting show that there is considerable progress. Let's hear your assessment about it.
Well, thank you very much, Cyril. It's absolutely correct that the security environment has improved tremendously. No doubt, government has done quite well using the instrumentality of the security agencies. What, of course, remains is that Nigerians, of all walks of life, need to understand that security cannot be 100%. There are, of course, a few pockets of challenges here and there, but on a general note, I believe that the ambience has been quite commendable, such that every Nigerian, to a very large extent, has been able to conduct their various activities without any let. And I think that this is the spirit, and I want to commend the various agencies of government that have been responsible for this shift. And I'm hoping that as we start up the year 2025, that they will sustain the momentum such that, before the end of the year, we wouldn't be hearing, cases of kidnapping, cases of, violence in various parts of the country. But by and large, I must say that the year 2024 has seen a significant shift from, what it used to be. So I think it's a pass mark.
All right, thank you. Well, let's come to the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. And for many Nigerians, yes, they're very used to communications, but the digital economy part of it is what was novel to so many. And so to start off this conversation, what were the defining moments of this ministry, particularly when you look at the matter of digital economy?
Thank you so much, Mr. Soba. I think you started with something exciting there, which is saying many people are used to the communication side of the ministry, but not the digital economy. I think depending on where you sit, before now, what people used to know about this ministry is simply telecommunications. But we've seen over the years that telecommunications in itself is morphed into the backbone of economies all over the world. You were talking about security earlier. It's almost nearly impossible today to effectively secure a society without good connectivity infrastructure. Because you have to be able to connect but also communicate with every aspect of society. And I think where Nigeria has been extremely fortunate, for those who follow the trajectory of this sector, We did the full liberalization of the sector in 1999. I think that was about under President Obasanjo. And that's when you started seeing private capital coming into the sector, helping to invest. And if you follow the growth of the Nigerian economy as well, you will see that the growth of our economy, our GDP actually went up significantly from where it used to be when that came in. And the reason is that for any economy to really be prosperous, you want to drive up productivity efficiently. You see, my colleague is talking to us from London. That's because there's already investment in the country in telecommunications and connectivity infrastructure. That's what makes that possible, which means since that full liberalization, we've been able to raise the level of productivity in our economy significantly, whether it's in education, agriculture, trade, anywhere you want to look at. And when this government came, the president was very clear that for us it was important to take a good stock of what and where the nation was when we came in, and what we should be doing to ensure that as leaders we're not just governing for today, but we're also ensuring that we're putting the country on a trajectory of growth, which is why if you follow what is always said about taking Nigeria's economy to that $1 trillion economy, how do you do that? You have to invest in the critical sectors that will drive the growth. Today, the digital economy and communication sector is the third largest in the country after agriculture and trade. It contributes anywhere between 14 to 18% to our GDP. So that's a significant sector. So what we did was to say for us to truly help the country leverage the growth that we're seeing in that sector, which is still happening, that there are foundational investment and activities that we must do. One is what was showed earlier, which is the knowledge base. You can't drive the use of technology in any economy if you don't have a strong pool of talent that can actually help apply it. Coincidentally for us, there's also a global shortage in technology talent, because if you look at some of the top countries in the world, their population is declining. They're not giving birth to more kids, so they don't have enough workforce to actually drive their economy, so they need technology workforce. And for Nigeria, we're extremely youthful. Extremely youthful. I think about 60% of our population is under the age of, if I remember, 18 sorry, 30.
35.
35. It's actually 30, under the age of 30. 60% in Nigeria, the average age is somewhere around 16.7 or something like that. We're extremely youthful. So we have the opportunity to be able to supply the talent that the world requires, which is why we went hard and investing in training our young people. This is a medium to long-term investment, that if we can train them, we can help them attract gainful employment. They can better their lives. If you look at the average salary in the technology space is way higher than most of the sector, and they can also impact their family as well. So we've invested significantly in that. The other thing we did, which also to support the administration's move for driving autonomy of local government, is also saying it's not enough to give them autonomy. You also have to ensure that they are more productive. And one of the ways in which you can drive productivity is also exposing them to technology. So we also went out there and said, how do we use existing government infrastructure? Nigeria is the only country in West Africa which is on satellite. Communication satellite, the only in West African region. So we're now using that satellite to deploy connectivity to hard-to-reach local government secretariats. We also have significant backbone in fiber optic network that the government is invested in. We're looking to deploy that to also ensure that we can connect them. But we're not stopping there. We've also seen that even as we're training slightly younger people, it's smart to start at really young age, at primary and secondary school. So we've also started a program where we're actually going into these schools to expose them to technology. One of our agencies called NITDA is now developing a framework for digital skills, which is now being added to the national curriculum. And we're going to be deploying this with the NYSC literally broadly as well. But the biggest part of what we've achieved last year, which I'm extremely proud of, because of the potential impact on the economy, is the Federal Executive Council approval for us to raise $2 billion from private sector, but also loan to invest in 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic network. Because once we're able to do this, we can then ensure that good, meaningful connectivity is available to our people, regardless of whether they live in the rural area or urban area. And these, we believe, will drive up the growth of our economy. The World Bank says if you improve the quality of connectivity in any country, by 10%, you will see about 2.5 growth in the GDP. There are not that many investments you can make in the world that can lead to 2.5% growth in GDP. It's quite significant.
Thanks. Well, we'll explore that in greater detail when we return to you. But for the economist in the house, well, a lot of people would say we didn't quite understand what was happening in 2024, and the figures would show certain indices. But I suppose for the ordinary folks, what they would look at was I better in 2024? And is it going to be better for me in 2025? That's leaving aside all the figures that normally economists such as you would churn out.
Fortunately, what usually prefers an economic era is a consensus of direction. And that consensus of direction will be, what are the feelings, the general feeling emerging within the economic space. So wherefore you've had what I'll call a year that might be themed as the high cost of living year. And for us, for me personally, I think the fundamental issue is to understand the fact that the president came in with an understanding of the limitation of the country. And the limitation is not current, it's historical. Historical because for a long time, we have run an economic model that is no model. It's simply based on populism, appeal to base sentiments, provide strategic products or services at the cheapest possible cost, and fund these services, as it were, with sovereign wealth, as it is. And in doing that, productivity is emasculated. And you now throw yourself, or rather we find ourselves in a vicious circle, not exactly of poverty, but constriction of production and productivity effectively since 1972. Because with the earnings, the economic earnings, the revenue of the sovereign had become more or less the driving force for movement, for economic movement. But those economic movements were not properly targeted. So over a period of close to 50 years, that was our model, which, of course, in economic sense is no model. It has been practiced in Venezuela, so many South American countries, and they've come out really bad out of it. Now, with the application, especially of those what we call two principal policies, the policy of removal of subsidy, fuel subsidy, the policy of the harmonization of the foreign exchange windows, of course, would have an immediate impact on the quality of life because it will impact cost of transaction. Cost of transaction to the extent that over a long period of time, we had been, we can't even talk about the percentage intervention of government on cost of fuel, for instance. You cannot talk of percentage intervention on the pricing rates of foreign exchange. So it was just like the federal government was collecting money and throwing it somewhere without production, without expecting anything in return, and became that circle for us. But 2024 indeed shows the realization of this new model as it is, the model of an open market system. Mm-hmm. Open market to the extent that it is what you give the system certain resources, the system gives you back certain returns. And you can then, because it's a return, you then reinvest and becomes a circular activity. And because it's a circular activity, it starts spreading, across the economic space, across the economic jurisdiction. And by so doing, starts moving, economic agents, as it were, out of whatever situation they are. Because when you have a circular activities, especially when it comes to a circular movement of money, as it were, as we have now, you get to a situation where an economic agent from one point start moving to another level, higher level, because of the impact. Now, how do I want to relate to this? New figures are showing where we are going. And I hope Nigerians, especially the opinion leaders, will sit back to look at those figures. All of a sudden, we are seeing increased export activities in agriculture and manufacturing. We have had a consistent three-quarter surplus, trade surplus, consecutively. But the October figure on our trade surplus was even more interesting, because we saw agriculture recording $0.62 billion. And we now also saw obvious exemplification of a diversified economy. Now, our products were not just the crude oil that goes to our traditional trading partners, Spain, Netherlands, and to some extent India. But now we are taking our agricultural products, cocoa, and others, to Brazil. They are seeing us in Japan. They are seeing our agricultural products in Germany, in Netherlands. So much that in September, we are reading up to $620 million from agricultural exports. Nothing can be more exhilarating, for someone that had been following that trajectory, to see that now we are seeing those impacts. And why? Because Nigerian agricultural products are now cheaper. And even more than that, Nigerian farmers are also now engaged in allied activities. So there are different levels of secondary enhancements, of agricultural products in Nigeria. That is one. Then two, we have moved from that consumption of fuel, investing so much in sales of our petroleum products for the convenience of our people. Well, now, is anyone seeing what is happening to our education with the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, which means that no Nigerian individual who is qualified to go through certain process of education, either in the formal education or in technical craft and all that, now no Nigerian born would have any reason not to further ease our education, because of poverty. Then two, of course you have heard about the National Credit Guarantee Scheme. Perhaps the biggest news that could happen, to Nigeria, as it were. Honorable Minister was talking about digital economy. Digital economy when the practitioners, as it were, I want to imagine 3 million practitioners, going through the process of training and all that. They need funding. And for the first time, we know that if you are just an ordinary Nigerian with your brain and talents, if you go to any bank, no bank will give you credit to start off. But now you have the government coming behind you. Whatever you need to do, as long as it has prospects of profitability, the federal government of Nigeria, through the credit guarantee scheme, would provide 100% guarantee for you to access that credit through the banks, of course. Whatever we're having now, are changing environments, and it's talking to how this new environment is empowering, organically.
All right, we'll look at other issues, and would like at some point in time for you to relate all of these achievements you speak about, to another very worrisome aspect in the economy, and that is inflation. But we'll come to that much later. Let's go over to the minister who's joining us from London. Well, for you, Minister, it's straightforward. The basic is food. And if we talk about agriculture and food security, once you mention that, every Nigerian is involved here, because we're looking at affordability of food, at least, so Nigerians will find a way to do away with the maxim of "we are hungry." Is the hunger in the land being addressed? And do we see 2024 as a year that deliberate steps were taken to assuage the hunger in the land?
Well, thank you very much. First, let me commend the speakers in the studio. I think they really have laid a very solid foundation. The key issue that made Nigerians to see a terrible food security situation was actually the insecurity. And I think the general, the former CDS, has painted the right picture. Things are changing, and it is true that we have gone through the worst. And I think the security situation has truly turned a corner. I can tell you in the past couple of years, in terms of 2003, 2002, up to 2020, if you look at what has been happening, it was like as if the thing was progressing. Areas where there were no insecurity suddenly becoming, challenging areas of security. And the result in all of this is that farmers were finding it difficult to farm the level of hectarage of farms that they used to. Now, while we're dealing with that, climate change had its own nasty, entry again. Around 2002, if you recall, there was a lot of massive flooding of our farmlands. And of course, coupled with the Naira redesign, where farmers had to really give out their produce cheaply. So all of those things really affected the stock of our food situation. And that was why by 2023, things just went bad. But let me say this. What has been happening since we came on board is laying a solid foundation, knowing fully well that the Commander-in-Chief, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has already given directives to the security agents to step up their effort. And that effort is done and things are changing. But what has happened is that we have also laid solid foundation in 2023, 2024, such that in 2025, just like the president has said when he presented his budget, is a budget of restoration, securing peace, and then restoring back most, or if not all, of the normalcy that our farmers should expect when it comes to their farm operations. And remember that, agriculture should be looked at from a business perspective, but most importantly, within the ambit of a value chain. You produce somewhere, you need to process, and perhaps move to areas where they are most needed in terms of marketing. Now, that has also been a challenge, because you realize that in some instances where these things are produced, you are not able to take them to where it is needed. And so at the end of the day, you end up having economic forces playing their own part. And at the end of the day, when you look at the question of food being available, but not affordable, it became an issue. And I think all of these issues are the things that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, under our watch, have been tackling. And I want to tell you that the solid foundation we have laid is such that we are now dealing with the basics. The basics in terms of what do we really need in terms of our food staple. We are having a handle on that now. And our target is to, ramp up production such that most of the basic staples, talking about rice, talking about wheat, talking about cassava, talking about maize, talking about millet, sorghum, cowpea, all of these major staples, we are stepping up production on them. And we also realized we have low productivity. So we are working very hard. Our research institute and the National Seed Council are currently working very hard to produce improved seeds that will be made available to farmers. And we are also stepping up our support to farmers in terms of fertilization, provision of fertilizers, provision of agrochemicals. And we realize we cannot depend just on the rain agriculture. So we need to also utilize the dry season. And so we have stepped up dry season production starting from the 2023-2024. And then in this 2024-2025 dry season, which has started since last year in November, we kickstarted that program in Cross River State for the first time because Cross River State now is joining the wheat producing state. It might interest you to know that while we know we are not still able to reach maybe where we want to in terms of the wheat, for example. And when you talk about wheat, all the confectionaries, bread, cakes, the gala we take, all the quick foods that we see people taking in the cities are coming from wheat. We need 6 million metric tons. And right now, we are not even producing up to 1 million metric tons. In fact, as at 2023, it was just about 100 and something. But by the end of production of 2023-2024 dry season, we are almost getting to 500,000, metric tons of wheat. And 2024-2025 season, the target is more than 1 million. And I think efforts by most of the wheat producing states, in particular Jigawa State, is very commendable, and we are working very hard on that. But the other aspect I would like to say, and I'm happy the Minister of Communication, my brother, Dr. Bosum, has talked about digital economy. The agricultural sector cannot be left out because we are talking about precision agriculture now. And if you are talking about precision agriculture, then you are talking about using minimal resources to enhance productivity in a very specific, say maybe 1 hectare of land. You should support farmers to be able to produce, more with less. It has the advantage of helping environmental, amelioration, but most importantly, increasing productivity to support a growing population like Nigeria is having. So we also are working on that. Farmers need skills, they need talent, they need information, and we are leveraging on digital technology to bring in e-extension services to our Nigerian farmers, which can also be provided in the various major languages for various commodities across the various agroecologies. Now, the other aspect is that we realize, like he has also rightly said, we have a very youthful population, and we must tap, into that. But the youths are not interested in hoe and cutlass. That is what is actually making them not to be interested in agriculture. But with the turnaround we are having now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has, charged us, and as we speak now, we are having 3 solid agricultural mechanization program: the John Deere agricultural mechanization program, the the Greener Hope agricultural mechanization program, and the Belarus mechanization program. In fact, the tractors have started coming in. I don't have the exact figures now, but I know this quarter, this 2025 first quarter, by the grace of God, we are hoping and praying that things will go as planned. And by beginning of the rainy season of 2025, we hope we'll be able to present all of these mechanization tools to support the activities of our Nigerian farmers. There is so much we have done laying foundation. For example, the beginning of any agriculture is soil, and we are having what we call the Farmers Soil Health Card Scheme, where farmers will know the health of their soil, what exactly are the nutrients they require, how are they going to apply it. All of these things are things we are working in the wings for 2025. So for us, truly, 2025 is a year of realization. Okay. We're going to realize quite a number of what we have been planning in the last couple of years.
All right, thank you so much, Minister. Comprehensive rollout of what to expect. We'll return to you in just a moment, but in addition to the discussion here in the studio, we also have some sectoral reports which cut across ICT, agriculture, and national security. So we'll take those reports at this point in time, reviewing the sectors.
For an average poultry farmer like Messi, a budget presentation may seem insignificant as long as there is a conducive environment for her business to thrive. However, She and millions of other farmers across the country face challenges, including the high cost of inputs and insecurity. The federal government has acknowledged these challenges, and efforts are underway to address them.
Nigeria's population is expected to be 400 million people by 2050. But what we need to do, research in good seed, shorten cultivation period, drought-resistant crops, heat-resistant crops, and also do all year-round farming. This is something that we're looking into.
Increase agricultural production.
During the 2025 budget presentation, President Bola Tinubu announced that funds will be allocated to support farmers with financial resources and inputs to enhance their productivity.
We are supporting our farmers with funding and inputs to reignite productivity. Food security is non-negotiable.
The president's vision is for Nigeria to significantly reduce food importation by focusing on increasing national production.
Mr. President has given us approval for 3 different mechanization programs. One is the John Deere, with John Deere Tata Africa, that seeks to supply 2,000 tractors every year for the next 5 years.
The agricultural sector required partnership, and we recognize this also. We are providing that, space for the ecosystem to grow in terms of our partnership with our development partners, and most importantly with the subnationals, the state. And you might recall that many of the state governors had visited us.
Among the initiatives aimed at strengthening the nation's food security are the promotion of environmentally friendly farming practices, identification of new strategies to encourage sustainable agriculture, and the provision of advanced equipment to improve agricultural productivity. The government also introduced measures to enhance food distribution systems, ensuring vulnerable communities have access to nutritious food through various community programs. Additionally, heavy machinery, including tractors, will be distributed nationwide to assist farmers in expanding their cultivation areas. President Bola Tinubu has approved the distribution of farming inputs for dry season farming across the country. The first batch of the beneficiaries are wheat farmers from 16 states who are receiving a 70% subsidy on all necessary inputs for the crop cultivation. Musa Baba Aliyu.
All right, from agriculture and food security, let's go to this next one on national security.
The armed forces have kinetic and non-kinetic operations across the country. These joint military operations in different theaters led to the elimination of 8,034 terrorists, arrest of 11,623 suspects, and the rescue of 6,376 kidnapped victims between January and December 2024. Data from the Defense Headquarters indicates that more than 8,000 terrorists have been eliminated, including more than 500 known and wanted commanders of terrorist groups and violent extremists.
We have overviewed the entire operation and realized that we need to harmonize our operations together. If you notice, we have Operation Hadarin Daji and Operation White Stroke, both within the Northwest region. We have seen the need for us to harmonize those operations into one operation like we did in the Northeast, where we have Operation Hadinkai. The same thing is being done now for the Northwest operation. We have one unified operation called Operation Fansanyama. For those of us that know, it's the West. Now the intention is to ensure that we synergize all our efforts in addressing the security challenges in the Northwest. It's been their tradition for the bandits to be able to flow between the states within them. So now what we're doing is that since we're harmonizing the whole operation, they will come under one commander. And then the commander will be able to utilize all the equipment and troops together to ensure that we address this critically. And I think that's the best solution we have for it. And I can assure you, all the assets that is required to do that will be done.
A harmonized joint operation, command and control center, recently established in the Northwest, with headquarters domiciled in Sokoto State, is currently smoking out the emerging Lakurao terrorist group.
The military has significantly diminished the fighting capabilities of these terrorists through our ongoing operations. We deployed a special operations brigade in the northwest of Nigeria, particularly because of the Lakurawa issue. This is in addition to rejigging the operation in the northwest. And because we have been in a state of counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operation for such a long time, I can assure you that the military has built several capabilities and capacities in knowing how to deal with these terrorists. We have set up a theater of operation now in the northwest, which is called Operation Fansanyama.
The defense headquarters is collaborating with Niger, Chad and other allied forces to further stem the threat of Lakurawa.
We are implementing heightened security protocols in high-risk areas and advanced technology to monitor, gather, and analyze intelligence. Increase joint operations between the military and other security forces. We have also maintained close ties with our allies to ensure that we stay ahead of those who seek to harm us.
Analysts say the proliferation of small and light weapons within the African region is a major enabler of the war. Also, a core of the armed forces operations have targeted demobilizing and disarming the terrorists. The defense headquarters also disclosed that the military, in collaboration with other security agencies, have heightened its state of readiness to ensure that no terrorist group or criminal element disrupt peace and security during the festive season. In Abuja, Ismail Musa.
All right, from those reports dealing with agriculture and food security as well as national security, we'd like to return to communications and the digital economy. And Minister, there's quite a lot here which we have here, would like to know from you. And we're bringing these in no particular order. I'd like to go first to the matter of broadband coverage in a developing nation like Nigeria. What's the outlook for increasing this in 2025?
Thank you so much, Mr. So I think I mentioned earlier that one of the biggest excitement of 2024 for me was that Federal Executive Council approval. And the reason is, as we project to the future, we need to do whatever it takes to ensure that we can connect our people regardless of where they find themselves. You listen to the Minister of Agriculture, State, talked about the need to even connect farmers. Connectivity has gone beyond just connecting people to talk. If you look at some of the most productive minds in the world, they're based off connectivity. You have to provide connectivity for them. I mentioned earlier security. Whether it's spaces where people occupy on occupied territory, you need to be able to ensure that these spaces are connected. And that's why, in line with the President's vision of building critical infrastructure for the country, which is why, for me, I think leadership shouldn't always just be about managing today. Like I said earlier, a lot of the decisions that are responsible for where we are today were taken, years ago. Today's leaders must also take decisions that will put us where we want to be in 2 to 3 to 4 years' time. And that's why that investment in the fiber optic network, ensuring that we have the backbone for connectivity across all of our country, not just in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, but ensuring that as you go into places like Zamfara, the states are well connected. You go into Enugu or you go into Ogun State, that the entire country is connected. And what we've seen all over the world typically is that very progressive countries understand that you can't leave this to private investment alone, because private investors will only invest in the inner cities, in the urban areas where they can make returns. Governments will have to complement or join hands with the private sector to ensure that spaces where private resources will not go into, government resources can actually go into. And by investing in those areas, you're opening up the economies of those locations. It gives you the opportunity to be able to provide good healthcare services in those locations. It gives you the opportunity to be able to improve the quality of education. The opportunity for the young people in these traditionally unconnected spaces to also be part of the global digital economy. All this has to be done based on the infrastructure. And that's why what we're putting together is a special purpose vehicle, which has been modeled after some of the best success story of Nigerian government, which is the LNNG, where you have government money coming together with private sector, or the NIBS, which is responsible for the innovation and creativity that you see in the financial services space. So these are examples of where government partners with the private sector to invest in critical infrastructure and allow the private sector ethos of how you run an organization successfully to guide how you manage this infrastructure. So we're very optimistic. One of the biggest investors in this project is the World Bank. They've already committed to investing in the project. We're hoping that before the end of the year, by Q3, we can actually start to dig and lay this fiber across the country.
There is a brewing controversy. It's not full blown yet, but you get to hear reports here, and that's to do with tariffs in the sector. You hear in one breath to say there's going to be an increase. There's a denial by the NCC. There's one group of providers who say, no, we haven't. Then another group says, look, it's about collapsing. If there's what's the situation?
So since we came in, since this government came in, we met the agitation for tariff to be increased. And I think if you pay attention to the growth, because tariff has not been increased in Nigeria for a long time, you'll actually see the case for inflation. Cost of doing business has gone up, not just in Nigeria, globally. But this price has stayed the same. So a lot of these telecommunication companies, of course, they're struggling to be profitable. But our interest as a government is not just balancing the side of the private sector. We also consider that connectivity and telecommunication services is almost now important to all of our people. It's almost, some people will buy airtime before they buy food. So we have to ensure that we're not alienating people. And this is why we've been looking at it and saying, how do we ensure on one hand, a sector, like I said earlier, which is third in terms of its contribution to our GDP, employs directly about 15,000 people, indirectly up to 500,000 people, those who sell recharge cards here and there, that we don't allow the sector to collapse, because it's an important sector. We do this in a manner that we also don't put our people in pain. If this sector is not profitable, they're not going to continue to invest, which is why people complain about the quality of service. The pool of users of telecommunication services in Nigeria is going up, but the investment in the infrastructure is not matching the growth we're seeing. So we do want the private sector to continue to invest, but as government as well, we're saying to ourselves, it is not sufficient for us to just allow tariff to go up without also looking at the long-term plan for how we actually enhance the quality of service, enhance accessibility and availability of these services. So we do think we've commissioned a report, a study. That's the first thing I did when these folks have been on my case that we must increase tariff. But I said, let's step back. Let's study what the sustainability of the sector is. What's the sustainability of all the businesses? What will be the impact of an increase in tariff on our people? And this study can then guide us as a government to do we allow tariff to go up? If it's going to go up, by what percentage? And even if it's going up, will that be sufficient to drive the growth of the sector the way we would like to see? What will be the other things that governments will need to do? For example, President Tinubu signed the declaration of all telecommunications infrastructure as critical national infrastructure. Because again, many people are not aware that there's vandalization, people going, cutting these cables, trying to get them off the ground to go sell them. And every time there's a cut, it affects the quality of the service. So when your service is not that where it should be, sometimes it's due to this. So we've declared that. We've seen that that's one of the things we need to do for the sector. Part of the tax reform, there's a lot of that is also looking at the sector and saying, how can we ensure that we harmonize the taxes to reduce the pain on a lot of this company? Also, since we came in, one thing that we've done is actually we removed the dollarization of invoices. In the sector, there's a lot of exchange of transaction that is based on dollars, and it's putting pressure on the economy. We demanded that should be denominated in naira, and then this conversation of tariff, which we think, to a large extent, we still think is going to go up. That's the realistic verdict
so
to give.
It's As it is now, it's a tough balancing act.
It is. And that's what leadership is all about.
The question would be just by how much?
By how much? They want 100%. This is a government that is extremely empathetic. There's absolutely no way President Tinubu will sign that tariff should be increased by 100%. The president daily is interested in how we ensure that as we're growing the economy, that we're also not inflicting pain on our people. So we'll never allow that to happen.
All right, let's go back to the other reports we do have. We have this one coming in from Kaduna.
Kaduna in the production of ginger and maize. Within the year under review, farmers in the state have received a number of support, receiving essential farm inputs such as fertilizers and modern farming equipment.
We must deliberately support our farmers. I would like to thank His Excellency the Vice President for his intervention, because with his intervention, 1.6 billion was given as a form of support to our ginger farmers in Kaduna State.
The livestock sector has also been given the required attention. The once abandoned cattle market in Benungwari, closed for years due to insecurity, has been reopened, creating economic opportunities for traders. As the center of learning, Kaduna State has also prioritized education. The state government unveiled new science secondary schools across the 3 geopolitical zones of the state, as well as extended the retirement age of teachers.
Our administration has prioritized education because it is the best investment against poverty and insecurity. When you give a person education, you have empowered him or her for life.
To provide an enviable learning environment for students in Kaduna State. It was towards this end that earlier on last year, you committed to the construction of 62 schools.
As the clock ticks 2025, residents are anticipating more dividends of democracy in the year 2025. In Kaduna, I'm Muhammad Marajingi.
All right, back in the studio here. Let's go back to communications. Minister, we do understand that you might have to leave us in the next few minutes. But before you do go, there's this aspect we want you to talk about. Emerging technologies, artificial intelligence and robotics. It's here with us.
Absolutely.
Where are we in Nigeria with these developments?
I think the good news, and again, this is not propaganda. I think there's been a lot of good news on this table. The good news is that when we came in, again, in the spirit of a leadership that is not just talk in today, but analyzing the trends in the world and where things are going, particularly with artificial intelligence, we realize that this is a technology that is already, many people are not aware, is already shaping how we think, what we think, and is literally going to determine the competitiveness of economies. Today, for those who use things like ChatGPT or Gemini from Google, AI can write better speeches for you than any secretary will. Because it will take into consideration, of course, a few months ago, plagiarism, hallucination, but these things are getting better by the day. And, I tell people, many people don't understand, what AI is simply the fact that human beings, we've been able to figure out how to teach machines to think like us. So it's simply the aggregation of everything that we already know, that we've documented in text without putting it in a database, and without teach a computer to be able to learn from it, which means that machines will be able to do certain things better than us. So when we came in, we said, this administration, first 4 years, if we don't find a strong way to actually give direction to artificial intelligence, that we're going to wake up in 4 years' time and Nigeria will be left behind. And for a country that is extremely youthful, For us, we didn't want that to happen because it would be the young people that will suffer from it. And we said we wanted Nigeria to be amongst the first 25 percentile countries in the world in artificial intelligence. This was just about 16 months ago.
That's achievable, you think?
We are. So that's the good news. The team was showing me a report today from Oxford University that actually puts Nigeria in terms of vision at 100%. Because what we did was we looked at the landscape. We said, how do we compete with countries like the US, the UK, with France, that has strong research institutions that have been researching artificial intelligence for years? It's going to be impossible. But we then realized that we do have a very strong diaspora community, some of the best scientists of Nigerian descent all over the world. So we worked with some of our partners and we identified top 100 of these people and we brought them to Abuja last year. Top 100 from Saudi Arabia, from the US, from UK, in some of the best institutions in the world. And they crafted the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy for Nigeria, which is one of the recommended strategies on the African continent. So today Nigeria is probably the #1 country that is being invited to gatherings where top countries in the world are discussing artificial intelligence because of the strong flag that we've laid down. We've funded about over 50 research projects last year. That was part of that report in artificial intelligence, looking at how we can use AI in agriculture, in health, in education, in some of these critical spaces. We're also supporting companies that are now doing something that is called annotation and labeling. So the training of the machines is still done by humans. So you have all these top countries in the world who would like to have a lot of people fill a room and train machine. So in Lagos, we're supporting a company that is getting contracts from all these American, UK companies and getting young Nigerians to actually do that work, which is not hard labor, but well-paid job. So Nigeria is now being recognized as one of the top 60. At the last UNGA in New York, the report that the UN released of the top 60 countries in artificial intelligence in the world, Nigeria is one of the top 60 in the world. And now we're getting support. We're being invited to be the 4th host of the largest government gathering on AI in the world, which is called AI Safety Summit. It's historically it's only been hosted by the UK, South Korea, and the next one is going to be next month, February, in France. Nigeria is now being asked to bid to host the 4th one in Abuja. Which means we're out there. And the reason why this thing is important is that we shouldn't be so upset just about today. We have to ensure that as we're solving difficult, wicked problems today, that we're positioning our young people for the opportunities of tomorrow. It's extremely important. If we don't do that, we'll continuously be playing catch-up with economic development.
All right, Minister, we would reluctantly
thank you so much, Mr. Solo.
have to let you go, even though there's still many more issues we'd like to raise with you. But we hope you'll come again some other time and talk about these things. So I'd like to thank you so much for being on this program tonight. Dr. Bosun Tijani, Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy.
Thank you, Mr. Solo.
It's been nice having you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Solo.
Well, we'll return to another of our reports. This one is from Port Harcourt.
The Council votes.
Under President Tinubu's administration, key policies such as the removal of subsidies and the unification of exchange rates, among other things, shaped the nation's economic landscape. While these reforms sparked inflation and public discontent, they also unlocked avenues for increased revenue generation and investment across the country. Rivers State, leveraging its strategic position as an oil-rich region, responded by digitizing its revenue collection system, ensuring higher compliance and boosting internally generated revenue, IGR, and foster greater economic resilience in 2025.
As a Federal Commissioner in the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation and Fiscal Commission, I will clearly tell you that things have changed. Number one, that removal of subsidy has made more funds available to our people. Two, quite a lot of areas have been tightened. Go to Federal Revenue today, the situation has changed. The customs, they've always surpassed the targets given to them because we have new herdsmen, new captains. Today, our national money allocation is no longer in billions, it's now in trillions.
The result of the subsidy is what we are going to
enjoy in the near future. The removal of that subsidy, not every Nigerian can summon the courage like Ahmed Tinubu did. Say, I will not take this, I will not take it any further. So everybody should be patient along with him. The pains of today will be the gains of tomorrow.
Governor Siminalaye's Fubara's administration took deliberate steps to diversify the state's economy and strengthen infrastructure. The launch of the health sector digitization project exemplified these efforts, improving healthcare delivery while creating jobs.
The issue of revenue is key, especially in budget performance. So when you talk about budget performance, you must look at revenue side by side with expenditure.
On the national front, the federal government reforms sought to stabilize the economy and attract foreign investment. The unification of exchange rates improved investor confidence, while security interventions in oil-producing regions curtailed oil theft, boosting crude oil production and increasing revenue. Looking ahead to 2025, Rivers State is poised to build on these gains. Plans are underway to further expand the state economy through public-private partnership, investment in non-oil sectors such as ICT, tourism, and manufacturing. With the combined efforts of subnational innovation and federal policies, Rivers State remains a vital player in Nigeria's economic resurgence. In Port Harcourt, Gabriel Amuniki.
And from Port Harcourt, we go over to Enugu for this one.
Over the years, individuals, groups, organizations, and the country at large run inventories and take account of various experiences, transactions, and events that shaped the outgoing year before ushering in a new year. In Nigeria, the year 2024 can be said to be characterized by a history of high inflation and devaluation of Naira triggered by the fuel subsidy removal. The President Tinubu-led administration, in its effort to stem the tide of inflation and boost domestic production, had disbursed cash to micro, small, and medium enterprises across the country amidst numerous interventions, policies, and reforms. In the year under review, Nigerians are making waves in the manufacturing industries such as clothing, shoes, and vehicle spare parts fabrication. The introduction of CNG vehicles and siting of conversion centers, as well as rehabilitation of railway tracks and trains, have in no small measure given succor to the transport sector.
There is hope when we look around and see that today in Nigeria, our people are embracing manufacturing. Think about the automobile industry. We now produce cars, jeeps, all kinds of vehicles, and even the so-called keke napep. When we begin to encourage those who are producing by patronizing them, I believe that they will manufacture more, increase their facilities, employ more people.
The educational sector, that he is trying to give something like palliatives to indigent students and to the higher institutions. The student loan scheme is a good one.
However, respondents are calling on the federal government to accord meaningful assistance to domestic production sector and make haste to reduce the fuel pump price and electricity tariffs, as this will help the sector to thrive in the coming year. In Enugu, Ukeria Ugu.
All right, with those reports that we've seen, we're back here with our discussion on the prospects for 2025 and what to expect, what Nigerians should expect. Let's return to the matter of security general, and that in itself is what most Nigerians are talking about. Just at the close of last year, it would seem that a new threat emerged. Even though Nigerians have been given all the assurances that it would not be in the manner of when the Boko Haram terrorists started. And I'm here talking about the Lakurawa and their infiltration into parts of the north. That has been a little bit of a concern. And then for the matter that there are large ungoverned spaces in northern Nigeria, some states have very huge landmass, Niger State, for instance, and some of those who are being chased from where they are finding their way to these places. And so it also underlines the need for continuous strategies in dealing with this. What way should Nigeria go in this and harmonizing the security architecture?
Well, thank you so very much, Siri, for putting this new challenge into context. Talking about the Lakrawa terrorist group. You're right that the land space where these criminal elements, where they operate vis-a-vis the resources available to be able to reduce them, is quite large. I believe that what both the military and of course other security agencies are doing currently is to, just as we saw in one of the reports, having to harmonize the various operations that are in place. But beyond that, I'd like to say that there's need for us to also interact, and I believe that is also being done. I mean, I'm in close contact with the defense headquarters. Interact with our Nigerian counterparts, and this is so because if you know the geography of Niger vis-a-vis Nigeria, you will understand that Niger Republic is about close to 1.5 times the size of Nigeria, whereas the population of the entire country of such a landmass is less than that of Lagos State. So meaning that the occupied areas where the inhabitants of Niger, where they are vis-a-vis the spaces that are open, which of course has not been termed ungoverned spaces as it were, is so huge. And you also know that the Lakrawa group, they cross, both from Niger, even Burkina Faso into Nigeria, and then vice versa. So what's important is for us to have, if you like, a tripartite kind of arrangement between, amongst the states, talking about our neighbors, in this case, in the main, Niger, to be able to ensure that, we're able to not just be, doing a ping-pong kind of arrangement, that as we are hard on them in Nigeria, they also hard on them. And that's why I also want to advocate that, of course, our relations with Niger is improved upon. Our historical alignment, tells us that there's a need for us to ensure that, that the kind of comment that came from the head of state of Niger recently shouldn't, be allowed to, to have some form of solidification. So I believe that there are some arrangement that could be made to ensure that, at least for the purpose of security enhancement, in this area, that we do so. Another thing, of course, that I believe that we need to do is to encourage our local inhabitants. I mean, many those in our various villages and towns to be upcoming with, meaning they should be ready to provide intelligence for the security agencies. I also know that, in terms of technology, a lot is being done to enhance the capacity of not just the armed forces, but other security agencies to ensure that they're able to get timely intelligence to be able to conduct their operations. The borders are porous, there's no doubt about it, and then, of course, quite extensive. I'm also delighted to note the work that the Ministry of Interior is also doing with respect to border security, namely the immigrations and the customs, and then attempts to ensure that we're able to have some form of monitoring of our various border points. And I think that as we strengthen these arrangements, that the Lakrawa challenge will will be taken out in no distant future. So for me, I see prospect for the year 2025, and in light of the fact that the main issues have been identified, and options for redressing them have also been identified. And the government, of course, especially Mr. President, has given a marching order, and I think I see a will to be able to support the efforts of the various agencies that are responsible in this direction. So for me, the year 2025, as it were, with respect to Lakrawa challenge, looks promising, and I believe that in no time, that group will be taken out such that our people will be able to live in peace and harmony. And more importantly, to also give room for the farmers to be able to undertake, their activities. What must be noted now that we're talking about security is the fact that security is not necessarily the exclusive preserve of the security agencies. It is for every Nigerian to understand that they have a role to play. And that's why perhaps the new understanding, or the new thinking regarding, human security, being the perspective for, assessing, security issues, security threats, knowing that once, if you're able to, of course, upscale governance issues, looking at social issues and, of course, community issues, wherein communities are able to live in harmony, to understand that little problems don't need to escalate such that they become very violent, amongst several other issues, that can, in one way or the other, contribute to the overall security situation across the country. So for me, I would like to join to encourage Nigerians to be part and parcel of the effort to bring in security to our land by contributing their own quota in one way or the other. So for me, 2025 holds a lot of prospects for us to be able to, upscale the security setting that we have currently.
All right. Well, we'll return to the economist, Dr. Nia Kinshiju. And I did say there was one aspect of it all which you would have to relate for us, and that has to do with inflation. That has stared Nigerians in the face all through 2024. And despite the gains that have been made in the economic policies you talked about, there's still a huge, huge challenge with regards to inflation. What are we looking at in 2025? Because the policies being turned out, some, it's among economists, they're not united on the effects of the policies the CBN has been churning out with regard to dealing with inflation. So for you, what would you say?
I want to submit quickly that a policy that addresses a challenge itself should have inherent in it the solution to the challenge that would also crop up as marginal, to the initial challenge. The policy of removal of subsidy on PMS escalated price. In economy, price is essential to investment. And I'm trying to see how basic we can explain this. Inflation itself is persistent increase in price. And to have that state was supposed to say that you have a situation where supply may likely be less than demand, or demand is higher than supply. So when there's an imbalance in those two forces, it will reflect in increase in price. So what do you now do to create an equilibrium, as it were? It is that situation where you have supply and demand being equal that you are likely to have what you call market-determined price. But you will get more encouraged where you have more supply than demand. What we have had in that sector is that we've had sole suppliers. sole suppliers that are not producing or providing enough to sate the demand of the market. And it's because the price as at that time was artificially manipulated to stay within a certain boundary. And to that extent, it is not a true reflection of that price, the market price. Now, because it is not a true reflection of the market price, suppliers are not coming into that market. Because suppliers are not coming into that market, demand had become higher. And of course, people were demanding for that product for different purposes beyond primary basic needs. And that's why we talk about smuggling across borders and all that. Now, by that decision to remove the fuel subsidy, as it were, we now move towards a market-determined price. And that encouraged a Dangote, for instance, to start selling to Nigeria. And we need to correct this impression. If the price had not been right, Dangote refineries will not be supplying Nigeria, because there will be a lot of inefficiency threshold. If he had to sell, and government will now refund him, so the market will not be perfect for him. So we have a situation now that when Dangote was coming into the market, he was able to start at 1.3, and there was negotiation. Over time, the Port Harcourt old refinery at the 60,000 capacity, came. Thankfully, that had been a rehabilitation ongoing since the administration before this, but it was realized soon after Dangote. And of course, recently you also have the Warri refinery, 125,000 coming upstream. Now, when you have that, now we are no longer talking about 1,000 naira per liter. We are talking sub 1,000 per liter. And that will reflect, of course, in the price of commodity over time. And we are hopeful. I believe that we have survived that storm. We are likely to go to 800. And more than that, the foreign exchange too. The foreign exchange rates had also fallen. 2024, most of 2024, we're doing up to 1,700, even at the official markets. But now we are doing 1,503 and 537 on the 540 on the average. And then there's also a change in the dynamics of ratio, and that is the important thing for me. Before now, you had more money, more forex being allocated to services. Those who are going for holidays, those who are going for educational tourism, medical tourism, and so other, not to merchandising. Now, because of the increase in rate, normal economic factors had come into play. Because you need a higher volume of naira to buy dollar now. You don't of course apply to buy your dollars, except you are doing it for productive purposes. So we have now have a situation where more money, more dollar, or rather more foreign exchange is being allocated or is being demanded by merchandise importers, than service users alone, what you call the invisible. So now, the price had fallen, that's the rates of foreign exchange had fallen. It will also now eventually reflect, on the pricing domestically over time. And of course, if you also remember the fact that the president had made a commitment that inflation rate will fall to 10%. And I think it is possible. One, you have the base effect. The base effect is marginal, it could come down to 30% at base effect. But with all these other factors that we are talking about, we are likely to have at least a sub 20% inflation rate.
But quickly speaking about that, can the lending rate as currently put across by the CBN lead to any check on inflation?
The lending rate is targeted at a segment of the economic ecosystem. Now we're talking of a surge in foreign exchange inflow compared to 2023, when we have just about $28 billion finding its way into the economy. Now we're talking of a net $46 billion coming into the economy as a result of that policy. The benchmark interest rate. The benchmark interest rate is principally targeted at both domestic and foreign investors, because if your rate is lower than your inflation rate, investors would believe that they are losing, they are losing if they come into that space. And of course, if you have an aggregation of foreign investors coming into that space with more money, it does mean that your foreign reserve will start ballooning, as we are experiencing recently. That we now have from average of 32 billion over the last 12 months to 40.2 billion. It does mean that we have a war chest, of course, to fight or to defend the naira, and again, it will translate to the foreign exchange transaction cost falling.
All right. We'll leave it there for the meantime and return to you later on. But let's quickly go back to the Minister of Agriculture as well. Minister, thanks for still staying on with us. We had to do it this way so we could let the Minister of Communications, who needed to attend to some other national business, take his leave. But back to you now. What we would like to take a look at now at this point is agro-processing. What are the prospects for having increased activity in the year 2025? And what has the ministry been, what's the strategy of the ministry towards increased agro-processing?
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy you talked about agro-processing. I think the key issue here is the fact that let's not run away from the current challenge that Nigerians are truly concerned about, which is to restore back food security. Nigerians truly want to, whatever we do, we are convinced, and we have seen and have heard that Nigerians are truly concerned about the cost of food. Whatever we do, they want to see the cost of food coming down. They want to see themselves able to feed themselves, their family, and their loved ones. Now, that has actually prompted us to say we want to ramp up production. Now, but in ramping up production, then after production, what happened? And I think that is where your question, now comes to play. We realize fully that post-harvest losses are high. In some instances, as high as 50%, particularly for the perishables. So what we're looking at here is to look at a massive program that will support our farmers who will be able to add value to what they produce, either in semi-form or even full processing, such that it will increase the stock of available food to the country. And I think that itself is receiving massive attention. As a first, what we have done is to say, where are we in this situation? Many people have quoted so many figures around post-harvest losses because of lack of processing, because of lack of storage facilities and the like. Now, we have to ask ourselves, and the best way to do that was for us to bring the ecosystem of those who are involved in post-harvest management. And for that reason, we have started what we call the Post-Harvest Connect. The Post-Harvest Connect is being anchored by the Nigerian Stock Product Research Institute, by our directives, and they've brought in all these, members, all the value chain actors within the post-harvest ecosystem. And here, our intention is to know exactly who is providing what kind of service, what kind of equipment, and what kind of skill sets are required. And with that, the number of companies that are involved are also being taken on board, so that at the end of the day, when we produce, we are having Nigerians, young Nigerians in particular, who are now beginning to see the opportunity in processing certain food into different types. And I think of recent, there is an article by a non-Nigerian, I think one Bangura, and he was truly remarkably noting what he has seen in terms of the various forms in which Nigerians are processing food. All of this is actually contributing to reducing post-harvest losses, making more food available, particularly off-season. Because one of the challenges we do face is, for example, when inflation issues are being talked about, they will tell you, oh, the price of tomato has gone up, the price of onion has gone up, the price of pepper has gone up. Now, what do we do when we have surplus? And we do have period of surplus. So those are the kind of areas we are now taking on board. And in 2025, by the special grace of God, we are having a project that is actually looking at these three commodities I've mentioned, onion, pepper, and tomato, within the concept of how they impact our food inflation. And I think the idea here is for us to support all producers, starting from seed, availability of quality seed, agro inputs, herbicide, pesticides, and the like, and also helping farmers who want to go into this production with other facilities like hydroponics facilities where young Nigerians will be able to, produce these commodities all year round. So for us, it is a major plank of our, interventions where we truly want to support, various processors. And one area I would like to mention very quickly is that we also have the issues of nutrition. If you recall from the figures being, provided or being submitted, our national, outlook for nutrition has been very terrible in terms of malnutrition among our children, among pregnant women, and even among some, adult populations. So one of the things we are doing is we are also promoting high, protein density, food processing, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to tackle all of these malnutrition cases, but at the same time also making quality nutritious food available for Nigerian families. So all of this we are taking on board, and like I said earlier, mechanization is a key driver because we must support Nigerians to see that, yes, these are businesses they can carry out. And a lot of young Nigerians have shown interest, and we are also working with so many, stakeholder groups to see that we are able to reach these young Nigerians who have massive interest in these areas of post-harvest management, processing, and value addition for product development that will support our food transformation system.
Let me stay with you a little longer. You did talk about ensuring that farmers get their seeds, but let me go a little beyond that and talk about climate challenges, the impact of climate change, for instance, at this time, which is a world phenomenon. And what do you have in terms of evolving resilient agricultural practices? And there's also, as I'm sure you know, a controversy about access to seeds for farmers. And we'll come to that. But let's start with the resilient agricultural practices. Oh dear. All right, we've lost that link, so we'll try to re-establish that link with the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security as we go on the program. But at this point in time, let's take a short break, and we'll be back shortly.
The Council of Our Fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
MDA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Right, thanks for staying with us. And just to mention that you could still call in, numbers to call would be on your screen, and you can ask a question, make a comment on the issues at stake. Just before we took that break, we lost contact with the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security. I think we have re-established those links now. And yes, Minister, thanks for being there. Just before that link went off, I wanted you to talk about the matter of introducing resilient agricultural practices in the face of climate change and its impact on agriculture. And we had also brought in the matter of access to seeds. But let's start with the climate change.
Thank you very much. Like you very well know, climate change is a reality. And it is clearly an indication that something is happening to our farming population. If you look at the frontline states, as we call them, in the northwest, in the northeast, many of them, in terms of the pattern, rainfall pattern and the like, things are changing. Now, that is a hard reality. And then if you also look at the flood, there is a lot of flood. So what we do is we have what we call the performance evaluation of the production sessions, either for the dry season or for the wet season. And I think we've done that wet season. That of the dry season is ongoing currently. Now, in the last wet season, 2024, the performance report from the National Agricultural Extension Research Liaison Services, one of our researchers who is in Ahmadu Bello University, they gave us very interesting report based on the findings so that we are able to use that to prepare for the next session. All of it is clearly saying that climate change is with us in terms of the fact that, for example, we had dry spell. When the rain started, suddenly it stopped. Now, these are the kind of challenges or shocks that your production system will be facing. And how you tackle them is actually an element of how resilient you are. And I think our agricultural system has already taken on board all of these realities, from our farming calendar to the various early warning systems that have been provided in collaboration with our partners like NIMET and then the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency. They are able to tell us what we are expecting in terms of rainfall pattern. For the various agroecology, either the northeast or the southwest or the north central, southwest, south-south, or southeast, because our agroecologists have been, what do they call it, classified along those areas. But what is important is that our researchers are producing what we call resistant varieties. And so in the last performance, review, evaluation report, more of our farmers are now using improved seeds. And because of that, the seeds they used were able to survive the dry spell, and rather than have a complete crop loss, they were still able to have productivity from what they have. And I think it shows the resilience. And overall, 2024 wet season, we saw a marginal increase of approximately 2% over the previous years. What that means is that we've been able to recover from the areas our farmers have lost as a result of the insecurity, and the new strategy we have introduced of introducing, farmlands that are close to, cities and urban centers. You will recall, for example, in Borno State, Governor Zulum was actually providing vehicles and security for farmers to, farm around the peri-urban areas of Maiduguri. And I think situations like that have all combined to contribute to the marginal growth we have witnessed. And I think with what we are planning in 2025, we intend to double that, gains and consolidate, especially in areas that have now been currently freed from the insecurity challenges. So in terms of resilience, I want to tell you the Nigerian agricultural system is showing massive, character in terms of our farmers agreeing that they have to do what they need to do to remain in farming because it is becoming a commercially viable option. And I want to tell you the future is agriculture in terms of land. So Nigerians, grab your land. If you think your land is fallow, land is not the most valued asset. Grab it. And the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is also currently working. We want to have a solid database that will tell us who our farmers are, where they are. And you will recall, with the Nigerian, what do they call it, National Bureau of Statistics, have done a what do they call it, annual census, and in that census for agriculture, we've been able to report that we have 42 million households that are involved in agriculture. So that shows you a massive intake, and we are doing all we can to properly target these families, give them the necessary support, and we want to commend our subnationals. The governors are working very hard together with us, and all the states are truly taking the cue that yes, the federal government is saying agriculture is the way to go, and I think they are queuing in, and we are working well together.
Okay, Minister, we'll ask you to hold on a while here. Let's try and get this call in, and perhaps as you were listening to us, you would have heard a little bit of that conversation. We're trying to link up with a caller on the line. Sunday Ori, I believe, who's calling in from Abuja, has been on the line. Hello, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm actually following up the program that is going on. Yes, I actually like to speak on the challenges that is going on because we move from state to state in public school public sensitization. We visit so many schools, precisely places like Nasarawa State, Niger State, and school in Abuja. Most times we feel so disappointed when we visit school. We'll be seeing students in those schools will be sitting in the floor. When you visit most of those, you will see the classroom. The standard of those schools are so poor, and you will see most of the students sitting in the floor in the classroom, and it doesn't speak good. And you look at most of our leaders today, like the ministers, I'm listening to them speaking. 95 of them out of 100, they all went to government secondary school. And what are the standards of those schools? They are so poor. The teachers of those schools, the environment, the seats. Honestly, sir, you'll be disappointed. Now, let me give you examples. We actually have a case that we visit a school. I don't want to mention a name in Nasarawa. When we got to that school, we discovered that the headmistress of the school was inside the farm. The school premises was farming, and it doesn't speak good. In a country, Nigeria, that we are trying to build a standard. Now, I don't want to mention many schools in Abuja. We actually visit those schools. Honestly, the environment doesn't speak. If those things happen like state in Zamfara, Sokoto, far distance in Abuja, not state close to FCT precisely.
All
so
right.
Please, I would like the minister to set a standard in most of our government schools because most of our great leaders today, they all went to government schools.
Okay.
Let a lot of impact that our children are all in private schools. Thank you so
much. Sunday Orji, calling in from Abuja. Thank you. It would seem that you probably did not join us when we started this program. We're doing sectoral reviews, and tonight our review was mainly on ICT, communications, agriculture and food security, and national security. And that's why we had the Minister of Communication here, and that's why we have the Minister of Agriculture joining us via Zoom. And as well, we have here the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff who's with us here, as well as an economist in the studio. And so you are referring probably to matters that deal with the education in the subnationals. And that is not in our review. But however, you have also stated your concerns about the quality of education. And that's a matter we intend to take up as well when we review the education sector. Hopefully we'll have the Minister of Education join us at that point. But again, that would be in setting the policy at the national level. As of course, you know that a lot of the examples you're giving us tonight would be directed at the subnationals. And those are not the ones we're reviewing tonight. But however, thank you very much for that. And we have another caller on the line, I believe. Yes, we have a caller from Benue. Hello, do we have a Fabian? Is it Fabian from Benue? Okay, if you're there, just go ahead. I'm not sure the caller is still on. Okay, hello, go right ahead. There you are. Go on.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Okay, I want to speak to the Honorable Minister of Agric.
Right, go ahead.
The eloquent Minister. My advice to the ministry is this. If ministry can acquire a lot of tractors, take it directly to the local governments, because those are the local governments that are closer to the people there within the communities. They will know who are the farmers. From there, those tractors can be given to them on loan basis. When they farm, they pay back. At the time, the states are gaining, the federal government is gaining. That's the way I look at it. Because if you bring it out to the ministries, at the end of the day, these ministries take these tractors. Before you know, the next thing, they take it away. It becomes their property. But if it's given directly to the local government, I believe the problem will be solved a little better. And I know Mr. Sadiq Abdullahi, who is eloquent and experienced, he will work towards this. That's my own advice and my own lookout. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you, Fabian. And I'm sure the minister heard you, and he would respond to that advice. Minister?
I think perhaps that is the beauty of this program, for us to tell Nigerians exactly what we're doing. In truth, the mechanization program that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has so massively approved for us, like I said earlier, we have 3. And in each of them, we are targeting 10,000 tractors, and implements and other, mechanization, equipments like, reagers, harvesters, and the like. Now, the whole of these programs are designed to get down to the local government areas. The difference from what we used to have before is you buy tractors and then you bring it and then it's now being used to, give to people who you don't even know where the tractor ends up. This time around, these programs are government-enabled but private sector-driven. And because they are government-enabled, we are creating the enabling environment, and the private sector will come in to run the mechanization scheme such that they will have tractor service centers across the 774 local government areas. We are farmers, we access services, either if they want to take if they have big farms and they want to take loan, they will be able to get access to, good credit facility, get these tractors and then utilize it in their farm operations. Or there will be service providers who you can just quickly get your own service, either to weed or to reach or to clear the land for you. So all of these are being planned, and the idea here is that we are going to start training young Nigerian youths who are interested across the 774 local governments. And each of these programs has been designed along that route. And they are also going to bring in the spare parts. So the idea of having obsolescence or even non-serviceable tractors will be taken off. And that is why I said what we are doing is government-enabled but private sector-driven. We have the Greener Hope mechanization, which is being handled by the Origin Group. We have the John Deere Tata Africa, which is also another group that is being handled. And we have the Belarus. All of them are already bringing in their equipment. Like I said, I don't have the figure now, but I'm aware that the equipments have started arriving into Nigeria. And that's why I said 2025, this first quarter to this next quarter, when the rainy season will begin, I think we are very optimistic that positive results will begin to emerge from our localization effort. And the whole idea is just like he was thinking. We are not going to keep this tractor and use politics on it, because we believe the tractors are to support our production so that we will have enough food for our citizens. You don't play politics when it comes to the matter of food. Okay. You just have to deal with it because it does not respect any sentiment. Food is food, and every Nigerian needs food. Okay.
Thank you, Minister, for that clarification. So back to the phones. We have Abubakar calling in from Abuja. Is he still on the line?
Go ahead. Hello. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Good morning. My name once again is Abubakar Shinkafi, and I'm calling from Abuja. Would like to appreciate the effort both ministries are investing in terms of technology in agriculture, the digital economy, as well as the Ministry for Agriculture and Food Security. What I would like to find out is, although the Minister for Digital Economy has left, are there any existing programs or projects that are currently going on between the two ministries in such a way that they can be harmonized for further funding? The reason why I'm saying this is I'm aware of a program by the United Kingdom Smart Agriculture. They are ready to come to Nigeria, particularly with a focus on ICT. They are starting with two countries, Ghana and Nigeria. And Nigeria as the pilot states. And they are looking for startups in agriculture, the use of ICT in agriculture. So I appreciate what the minister has said in terms of e-extension, but is there a harmonized program between the two ministries so that Nigeria can benefit from this funding that is coming? The funding is from UK, Brazil, Africa, with a specific focus on Ghana and Nigeria, and it intends to be in Nigeria, I think, on the 9th of February. So perhaps if we can harmonize these two programs, I think the government and the small farmers, as well as the agri-tech, will surely benefit. It's a question and rather a suggestion. So I don't know whether the Minister for Agriculture might have something to add in respect to this, but it's a good program I think Nigeria can key in as long as we have a harmonized project between the two ministries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Abubakar. Well, yes, Minister.
Well, I don't know what his definition of harmonization here means, but what I can say clearly is that in agriculture, whatever you want to do, the digital technology is a tool. And I think, for example, the tractors I talked about, they are going to come in with all of this digital technology. They are going to be able to track what you are doing, the number of hectares you are going to do. So a lot of things are inbuilt. So I don't know what is the definition of harmonization is. But be that as it may, let me say quickly here that definitely as a ministry, beyond the e-extension I mentioned, we're having programs where we would like to use digital technology tools to support production in agriculture. And I give you two clear examples where we are having focus on, for example, the issue of soil. We are having a national program for farmer soil health card, where we'll be able to see exactly where is your farm, and using the soil, analysis that will come from the farmer soil, health scheme, we'll be able to tell you the health of your farm in terms of the nutrient content, the type of fertilizers you require, and when and how you are going to apply this. All of this itself is going to be done using digital technology. So that is already, things we're going to do. And I think, let me correct an impression. We prefer anybody coming to assist us as a country to key into us. We are not going to be keen into other people's program. They should be keen into our national program. Because the idea of people coming to give us pilots when our country has gone beyond pilot is gone. We are dealing with very serious issues now, and we are very ambitious about it because we believe the welfare and security of our citizens is very, very important. That is the primary purpose of governance. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is leaving no stone unturned. He has charged us, and we are working very hard to make sure that we do the right thing. Now, in terms of using digital technology across, whether in terms of the post-harvest that I talked about earlier, whether in terms of the processing, all of these things will be requiring all of this technology. So if that is what it means, definitely we're interested. And like I said, if they want to key into what we're doing, they are more than welcome, and our doors are open.
We would like at this point to thank you very much, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, Minister of State, Agriculture and Food Security. Thank you so much. Joined us via Zoom from London. We thank you for being part of this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cyril, and have a wonderful rest.
Right. Well, back here, we've just about run out of time, so we'll just quickly take the closing comments. First, let's come to you, General Lucky Rabo.
Well, thank you so very much. I'd like to use the opportunity to appreciate Nigerians and to also wish them the very best of 2025. I'm quite upbeat. The security environment is going to be better. And I think that all of us will need to join hands with what the various agencies are doing so that we will be, collectively, will be beneficiaries of the security ambience. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. And Dr. Niyakishiju, quickly as we round off, can we expect those prices to come down? Because that's what it's all about.
Sincerely, by a lot of modeling that had been done, there's so much hope that prices will come down, most especially food. And we've had the programs and other forms of approaches by the Honorable Minister. Food constitutes the highest modicum or quantum of our inflation rate in Nigeria at 40%. So I think if we are able to bring food inflation down to a sub-10 level, definitely our inflation rate will be at even sub 15% level. And I believe that this is all the core inflation elements are coming down already. So once food starts coming down, and this is what the minister had told us, and I now have more a reinforced hope, that inflation rate will fall once food inflation starts falling.
All right, thank you so very much for coming on this program. Dr. Niyi Akinshiju, Development Economist and Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you once more, General Lucky Rabo, former Chief of Defense Staff. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Siri.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's our program today. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.